Buried in concrete bunkers, shrouded by dense forest, and sealed inside once classified vaults, Nazi Germany didn't just leave behind horror and ruins. It left behind something far stranger: artifacts, machines, blueprints so bizarre they seem ripped from a science fiction fever dream. From flying discs to whispering wings, these aren't conspiracies. They're real, unearthed, documented, and terrifying, so buckle in. Because we're about to uncover 20 of the most bone-chilling, logic-defying relics recovered from the Reich's darkest obsessions. Number 20. The Hanabu Files. American forces storm a remote Bavarian farmhouse inside a crate labeled E for unit. They don't find weapons, they find photographs, diagrams, page after page of engineering schematics. All centered around one thing: a disc-shaped aircraft labeled Hanabu 2. The documents described mercury turbines spinning inside electromagnetic coils, technology that seemed to bypass traditional propulsion. Engineers at Wright Field devoured the data. It wasn't myth, it was math. The physics was real. But the power source? Missing. That absence ignited a storm of rumors. Underground test sites in Prague, a concrete ring lit up at night, locals whispered of cables humming through the earth. Yet no physical prototype was ever recovered. Still, decades later, microfilm duplicates appeared in the U.S. National Archives proving the files were real. The concept, still highly unstable. British engineers tested a replica, it spun itself apart, but the machining, so precise, it could only have come from a wartime machine shop with nearly unlimited resources. Whether a failed prototype or an abandoned breakthrough, the Hanabu Files remain a terrifying possibility, lodged somewhere between reality and the edge of science fiction. Number 19. The Mountain Cave. Natter's next relic wasn't just blueprints. It was real and deadly. Deep in the Austrian Alps, Allied patrols stumbled on something buried in dust and silence. Hidden trailers. 5 of them? Each carrying a vertical launch jet fighter, the Ba 349 Natter. Its mission: launch vertically, intercept enemy bombers midair, and eject the pilot before impact. Inside the cave, cockpit panels, autopilot gyros are for air-to-air rockets still crated nearby. Wright Field engineers shipped one back to the U.S. for testing. The results? Chilling. The wooden shell held up. The ejection system didn't. A delay of even milliseconds would result in the pilot being decapitated by his own canopy. And yet, Germany built them anyway. Every morning, workers fastened engines in complete silence, knowing most pilots would never return. One shell survives today at the Deutsches Museum in Munich, its seat bolted above volatile fuel tanks. Paint flakes from its surface like dead skin. It looks less like a cockpit and more like a coffin. Number 18. The forest swallow. From the cold mountains to the damp forest floor, history was about to break through the soil literally. North of Munich, loggers brought their chainsaws to a halt when they hit something strange. Metal. Not just any metal. A wing. Tungsten-bladed saws had struck the twisted frame of a Messerschmitt Me 162, the world's first operational jet fighter. Soon, excavation crews arrived beneath the moss, dual engines, cannon mounts, and melted cockpit glass. Records matched it to a 1945 crash, a pilot forced down after an engine flame out. The forest had kept its secret for 60 years. Oil still seeped from its turbines, soaking roots, drawing collectors like blood draws sharks. When restoration began, engineers found something chilling: evidence of field cannibalization, parts ripped from other jets just to keep this one flying. To unexploded 30mm cannons were discovered beneath the wreck, still wired, still deadly. The site was declared a war relic memorial. But some say the forest itself remembers, and the wreckage still breathes. Number 17. The Horton Ho 229. The Me 162 was desperate. The Horton Ho 229 was impossible. In 1950, Allied surveyors cataloging equipment in a sealed German mine stumbled upon something extraordinary: an unfinished flying wing made of carbon-infused plywood. Its name, the Ho-229 V3. The aircraft's shape wasn't just futuristic, it was stealth decades ahead of its time. Curators shipped the wreckage to the U.S., where it was forgotten in crates for over half a century. When restoration began in 2012, laser scans revealed curves that couldn't have been shaped with any tool of the time. The aircraft had no tail, no fuselage, just a seamless wing that looked like it had flown in from another world. Tests confirmed its radar signature was astonishingly low. Northrop Grumman engineers used it as a test subject against the Beta Spirit, and the results: it could have outrun Allied Mustangs under 15,000 feet. Even today, the adhesive in its wooden frame leaks formaldehyde, corroding modern sealants and attacking museum-grade glass. The engine's still missing, but the silhouette ... it whispers of a warplane that nearly took to the skies just as the Reich fell. Number 16. The V3 Supergen shafts the V to terrorized London, but Hitler wanted more. More firepower, more distance, more devastation. Hidden beneath the chalk cliffs of northern France, engineers carved an underground monster, the V3 Supergen. It wasn't one barrel, it was a complex of multiple 430-foot shafts, each angled to launch projectiles across the English Channel. Each barrel used multi-charge acceleration, a method so advanced it sounded like science fiction. Every minute, a dart-like shell would streak toward London, relentless, inescapable. But the Allies never let it happen. Air reconnaissance misidentified the site until tallboy bombs obliterated to tunnels in 1944. When ground teams descended, what they found chilled them: dozens of breach sections, wrapped in wax paper, perfectly preserved for a project never completed. Each dart could travel 93 miles, supersonic, but this wasn't a gun. It was a building, and buildings can't be moved. Visitors who walk the tunnels today still wear helmets. Chalk dust falls like snow. The sea howls through open shafts. Standing in the ruins, you understand why engineers built bombs the size of houses to stop it. The V3 wasn't just artillery, it was a prophecy of Cold War missile warfare. Number 15. The Type 17 peroxide submarine. Above the waves, the Allies hunted. But below, Germany prepared to vanish. Engineer Helmuth Walter had a radical idea: forget diesel. Build a submarine that could sprint underwater 25 knots, faster than most surface ships. The secret: hydrogen peroxide. In 1945, Allied forces found one of these futuristic vessels, U-146, still moored, batteries charged, logs still open. The boat gleamed. Inside, silver peroxide tanks nestled like torpedoes. But it was dangerous. Highly unstable, crews had to vent the tanks each night to avoid explosions. U-146 was towed across the Atlantic. Testing in Portsmouth confirmed the impossible underwater bursts that changed naval doctrine. The submarine was scrapped ... but its DNA lived on. The U.S. built its own peroxide-powered X-1. The British and Soviets mined it for rival designs. Walter himself avoided prosecution. He cut a deal. Gave his genius to the Royal Navy in exchange for freedom. Peroxide power eventually gave way to nuclear. But for a brief moment, these chemical torpedoes haunted the oceans, a ghost fleet that never surfaced. Number 14. The Kugelpanzer, the rolling mystery. In 1945, Soviet forces found something bizarre in Manchuria. Not a tank, not a car, something ... round. A steel sphere on wheels, welded shut. No gun, just vision slits. A motorcycle engine and a single stabilizer. Its name: Kugelpanzer, the ball tank. It looked like a carnival ride gone wrong, but it was real. Soviet engineers found blackout lamps inside. A radio mount, layers of gray primer, but no records, no purpose. Just speculation: recon vehicle, cable layer, suicide bomb. What raised alarms was the hatch locked from the outside, a prison on wheels. Traced back to a cancelled Krupp project, it was meant for Atlantic Defense's rolling pillboxes for beaches. But that sketch vanished. The Kugelpanzer did not. Today, it sits at the Kubinka Tank Museum in Russia. The interior, sealed. No X-rays allowed, no scans. Visitors can watch it spin, but they'll never know what it did, or who was meant to die inside it. Number 13, the composite missile wreck, Baltic Sea Time bomb in 2015. Danish divers scanning a wreck off the Baltic coast stumbled on a haunting silhouette, a Junkers Ru-88 bomber upside down, but something was wrong. Bolted on top of it was ABF-109 fighter. To planes, one weapon, a desperate invention by KG to hinder the Luftwaffe's clandestine operations wing. This wasn't just a fighter, it was a guided missile. Fitted with oxygen tanks and explosives, the pilot was supposed to bail out at the last second. But this one failed mid-transfer. Sonar confirmed demolition charges still embedded in the bomber's nose. That's when the exclusion zone was declared. Even now, the wreck is considered one of the most dangerous underwater war relics on Earth. The pilot survived. Soviet logs mention an unexplained explosion near the site hours later. It likely flipped the wreck, sealing it in silt. The serial number matched Project 71424. The plan hit the Baltic Fleet's anchorages. It didn't work, but it still sits there. Live charges, waiting. Number 12, the Opel Rack rocket car. Before missiles ruled the skies, the Nazis wanted them on wheels. And in 1928, they almost made it happen. The Opel Rack to a rocket-powered car hit 238 kilometers per hour in a straight-line burst. The only prototype vanished in the chaos of war, or so we thought. In 2014, archivists opening mislabeled crates in a ruined Rüsselsheim factory uncovered something incredible: the burnt magnesium steering wheel, the scorched aluminum nose cone, and two original graphite exhaust bells, all from the legendary car. Photos matched every dent and blister. Engineers went into overdrive to reconstruct the chassis. Inside Max Valier's design notes, they found something chilling: asbestos gloves. Emergency flares, a reminder every ignition could be your last. Technicians released one surviving solid fuel stick for testing. It shattered a sled shield from 50 meters away. Though regulators banned high-speed DMOS, a static replica was built to fire one rocket per day. Each ignition roars like artillery, echoing across museum halls. This rediscovery even inspired a hydrogen-powered successor. But nothing beats the original, a fire-spitting ancestor of both rocket tech and pure death wish. Number 11, the DFS-346 Mach Madness. Some weapons were made to fight, others to leave the planet. The DFS-346 was a space-age dream born in wartime terror. Designed by Felix Kracht, this sleek rocket glider was meant to launch atop a bomber, ignite a rocket midair, and reach Mach 2.6 before gliding into enemy skies. In May 1945, Soviet forces captured a partially completed fuselage in southern Germany. They moved it to secret labs in Zhukovsky, where German engineers under guard finished the build. Pilot Wolfgang Zeiss refused to fly it. The Soviets didn't care. Captain V.A. Serogan climbed in. In 1947, he dropped from high altitude. The rocket fired Mach 0.9, then disaster. He lost control, barely ejecting before smashing into the atmosphere at 12,000 meters. Still, that test was a success. The Soviets learned. The design data seeded their Sukhoi and Mikoyan interceptors for years to come. The 346 now lies in fragments at Menino Air Museum. The cockpit still reeks of sealant and stale vodka, probably from the recovery divers. A reminder: the closer you fly to the future, the harder it burns. Number 10, the Walbersig armored convoy in the tangled railways under Poland's All Mountains. Whispers persist of a ghost train. one filled with gold. In 2015, radar scans revealed a 90-meter anomaly near Tunnel 61 abandoned since 1945. Treasure hunters Piotr Koper and Andreas Richter filed a claim, citing Nazi evacuation orders referencing Panzerzug 32. The Polish military sealed off the site. Fearing live munitions, they halted all excavation. Core samples showed manganese, consistent with steel rail cars. The disturbed soil aligned with blueprints of switchbacks and loading ramps. But skeptics blamed natural faulting. Supporters noted something stranger. Rail telegraphs in the region went dark for 12 straight days in August 1944, exactly when the Soviets broke through. Coincidence or a last-minute treasure flight west? Chemical weapon manifests surfaced in archived cables. No one knows what truly lies beneath. Art, bullion, or just rusted death on rails. Number 9. The Farm Field Panther Semites. History waits. Beneath the plow. In 2011, Polish farmer Jerzy Duda was tilling a field in Lower Silesia when his tractor hit something solid metal. Digging revealed a turret hatch, then road wheels. Then the long snout of a Panther tank, left behind in January 1945. Its crew had attempted to detonate it but only succeeded in collapsing the ground. The tank remained waterlogged, preserved. Even the Zimarit paste, a bizarre anti-magnetic coating, still clung to its hull like dried honeycomb. Inside, a radio cracked by frost, still tuned to a lost Wehrmacht frequency. Chocolate wrappers, frozen grease, a cockpit preserved like a time capsule. As restoration began, students studied it for its metallurgy. Engineers noted wartime shortcuts, missing parts, altered alloys, spray paint inside the turret, proof of a mid-factory conversion during bombing raids. Collectors begged for it. But Polish law locked it down as national heritage. The Panther became a museum piece, but its arrival sparked legal fights across Europe. Because relics of war don't just carry steel. They carry claims. Number 8. The Mittelwerk V2 assembly caves. Carved into the heart of Germany's Harz Mountains lies a tomb of forced labor and rocket fire. The vast tunnels, each 1.8 kilometers long, constructed not by engineers but by 60,000 prisoners, many worked to death. This was Mittelwerk, the hidden production center for Hitler's vengeance weapon, the V2 rocket. When Allied troops arrived in April 1945, the assembly lines were still warm. Some rockets were stacked vertically. Others sat in rows, stenciled with destination codes. The most disturbing find: a concrete test lake, strewn with cracked turbines and shattered guidance gyros, frozen evidence of a military assembly line beneath the earth. British teams matched serial numbers to bombed London streets. This wasn't just technology, it was forensic rocket science born in a death chamber. Guidance nozzles were removed and rushed to Farnborough. French engineers recovered parts showing exotic steel variants never documented anywhere else. Radar still pings sealed rooms deep inside the mountain. What's inside, no one knows. But the fuel tanks still leak ethanol and the walls still whisper. Mittelwerk wasn't just a factory. It was hell on rails. Number 7. The Reichenberg suicide jet. Before kamikaze pilots became infamous in the Pacific, Nazi Germany was already experimenting with its own deadly twist, a manned cruise missile. Meet the Reichenberg F-103R, a modified V-1 flying bomb. With a human cockpit, plywood walls, primitive gauges. A canopy that could jettison seconds before impact. The idea: dive toward Allied ships at full speed. Jump out at the last moment. Hope you survive the freezing sea. Most test pilots were teenage Luftwaffe volunteers. In 2003, dredgers widening Rotterdam harbor found something bizarre: a rotting pulsejet. With a wooden pilot seat still bolted in, it was one of 10 training craft jettisoned over water. Shockingly, its internals were pristine, never ignited. Restorers placed it beside a standard V1, making the difference horrifyingly clear. One was a bomb, the other a flying coffin with teeth marks on the control stick. German records show the project was cancelled just days before the Ardennes offensive. A single logistical memo may have saved hundreds of young pilots. Sometimes bureaucracy is the only thing standing between vision and madness. Number 6. The America bomber blueprints. It sounds like a Cold War dream, but it was born in the Third Reich. A 6-engine flying wing designed to bomb New York from occupied France. The project was called P-80, and it nearly existed. In 1999, inside Zeppelin's massive hangars at Lake Constance, archivists unrolled a forgotten sheet of yellowed vellum. Dimensions, staggering, cabins, pressurized. Fuel, mid-air refueled, but the most shocking detail. Margin notes referencing a Franz Joseph turbine cluster power unit not found in any known catalog. Modern engineers believe it was an early, designed for a clustered BMW 0-8 turbojet, a concept decades ahead of the B-52. There was no prototype. No parts, but the blueprints matched floor anchors still visible on the hangar floor. They started building it, then the aluminum shipments stopped. Today, visitors walk across faint outlines on the hangar's concrete. Ghost wings. The bomber never flew, but its shadow still reaches across the Atlantic. Number 5. The Millenniumer tanks. Some tanks were designed for battle. This one was designed to walk into hell. Unearthed in 1947 near the Kursdorf Proving Ground, the Millenniumer looked like a gear from a nightmare. Its purpose: roll across minefields and detonate every explosive beneath it. With massive toothed wheels and a low, armored body, it was nearly invincible from below but painfully slow. Soviet salvage teams dragged it to Kubinka, where engineers found something odd. Spare snowplow blades welded inside the hull for ballast, its diesel engine weak, its top speed slower than a walking man, yet its concept inspired Cold War line clearance vehicles and modern rocket-propelled mine-clearing tech. Radiation tests were conducted. Some feared it had seen live battlefield detonation. Results: clean. Likely, it never rolled into combat. But its brutish design and sheer overkill remain a chilling testament to how far desperation can twist innovation, a rolling death trap built not to fight, but to die. Number 4. The Goliath tracked mine asterisk. It looked like a toy, but this toy killed tanks. The SD KFZ 300 to Goliath was a miniature, tracked bomb just 60 kilograms of explosives on treads, steered via a 650-meter triple-strand cable. Operators used a joystick to send it crawling under bunkers or enemy armor, then boom. In 2016, French archaeologists draining a Normandy marsh stumbled upon a macabre jackpot: 14 waterlogged Goliaths stacked like beetles beneath the mud to still had active charge in their original batteries 70 years later. Disposal teams had too carefully immersed them in saltwater baths. Inside, worn amatol discs had degraded, but the detonators still clicked ominously when tapped. One now sits in the Imperial War Museum in London, its long cord coiled like a frozen intestine. Ultrasonic cleaning revealed faded stencils. April 1944. Hitler Youth Demolition Training Unit. Historians traced the serial codes to a Berlin toy factory repurposed for war. Once it made model trains, now it made mechanized suicide machines. It said Allied soldiers used to shoot the cables. On sight, they weren't just stopping a weapon. They were cutting a lifeline to something unholy. Number 3. The Glacier Ghost. Heinkel He-160 to recovery asterisk. High in the Alps, where only snow and silence remain, something metallic began to emerge from the thaw. Climbers near the Y. Gruben Cassera Glacier spotted aluminum shards, glittering like bones under the melting sun. What they had found was a Heinkel He-160 to Salamander, one of the Luftwaffe's last-ditch jet fighters. Serial numbers confirmed the jet vanished in May 1945 during a training flight out of Salzburg. Presumed lost, instead it had slammed into the ice and been entombed for nearly 70 years. What the glacier preserved was astonishing: a cockpit canopy. Still sealed, flight manuals, gum wrappers, a Luftwaffe pilot badge still gleaming silver. Defrosting took months to avoid fracturing the delicate wood-laminate skin. Airlifted to Zeltweg Air Base, it became one of the most pristine cold-weather wreck recoveries ever recorded. Even now, scans show control rods still connected. The theory: it didn't explode, it belly skidded into the ice. Its silent preservation is both miracle and warning, a forgotten war machine asleep under snow, waiting for a new war that never came. Number 2. The Schwerer Gustav shells, 7 tons of silence *, some weapons whisper, the Schwerer Gustav roared. In 2012, hikers near Sevastopol stumbled upon something half buried in a cliff, enormous rusted cylinders protruding like the fingers of a buried titan. They weren't bombs. They were practice shells, each weighing 7 tons, each taller than a man, each part of the largest artillery system ever built. Though hollow and filled with sand ballast, metallurgists confirmed the shell's origin matching wartime Soviet intelligence logs that noted for test firings toward the Black Sea in 1942. The steel still bore graphite driving band grooves, rare and coveted among artillery historians. Radiographs revealed subtle nickel alloy gradients, showing Krupp engineers had begun experimenting with high-speed industrial casting. Even inert, the shells defeated cranes. Ukrainian engineers had to fabricate custom spreader bars just to move them. Today, they stand upright in coastal museums, monolithic relics from a war where size meant power. But Sierre continues its quiet attack. Preservationists rush to laser skin every etching before assault finishes what war could not. Meanwhile, tourists pose beside them ants under a rusted god of siege. Number 1. The Me-163 Comet, rocket fighter in a cave *. Our final discovery combines every thread in this web of madness, speed, secrecy, and death. In 1999, hikers in Austria's Pitztal Valley noticed coolant stains leaking from a limestone outcrop. They pried loose logs and found a sealed cave. Inside, a fully intact Messerschmitt Me-163 Comet, painted in original RLM-81 brown-violet, the rocket engine still bolted to its cradle. Nearby, medkits, toolboxes, burn ointment. Proof they had planned one final launch. This wasn't just a storage site, it was a mission paused by surrender. The Austrian military airlifted the 5-ton jet in pieces, wary of residual T-stoph peroxide in the plumbing. But the greatest find lay within the cockpit, a sealed envelope. Flugbuck Comet number 91220. Inside, logs of 16 training flights, altitudes, fuel mixes, maximum speeds Mach 0.84, gold for aerospace chemists studying wartime catalysis. The flight suit, still latched, a DNA swab from the collar may one day reveal the pilot's descendants. Until then, the Me-163 rests in Innsbruck, encased in blast glass. Its serrated wings cast shadows like shark fins under cold museum lights. A rocket from hell, asleep, waiting. Final words. So, which of these twisted machines was a true breakthrough? And which were just fear-fueled fantasies? What secrets still lie buried beneath the bunkers, forests, and ice? We may never know, but one thing is certain: Nazi Germany didn't just build weapons. It built legends of steel, smoke, and silence haunting our present like echoes from a darker timeline. Got theories? Drop them in the comments. Like, subscribe, and buckle up because this is just the beginning.